Basketball fans, the weather outside is frightful as we anticipate about 15 centimeters of snow and 70-kilometer winds in downtown Toronto. And with that, even though I'm still in the office, Sherman Hamilton and Paul Jones get to come to you from the comfort and coziness of their respective homes. But I do not blame them as we get into the meat of things and break down an unfortunate loss for the Toronto Raptors, 124-123 to the Sacramento Kings, who at least on their way out got a taste of this cold. But let's talk about it. Fred VanVleet with an opportunity to take the game into an extra session. Unfortunately, that shot didn't go down, but just about everything else went down for Freddie. 39 points on 13 of 25 from the field, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. And how important of a game is this for Fred VanVleet, Jonsey? I'll start with you simply because of the amount of conjecture and conversation around, is he hurt? Is he injured? Will he find his form? And of course, Raptors fans, in full panic mode at this point.
A lot of consternation. You're right, Akil, around Fred VanVleet. And, we saw this from him in an earlier game, too, when there was a lot of discussion about his play. And he came out of the gate aggressive. He did a terrific job of driving the ball to the basket and was inexorable about it at times by continuing to push with his dribble, continuing to get the ball inside, finish at the hoop. Probably should have had a few more calls and a more favorable whistle, but there was a determination there. And, that's one of the fundamental principles of the offense in terms of getting the ball inside. Nick talked about way back in training camp, getting more paint touches and things coming from the inside. And although it's a 3-point lead, playing inside out. And I think Fred epitomized a lot of that with his play against Sacramento. So I think it's good for him. I think it was good for the team. And, I think it's a way out of the doldrums if you continue to get good shots and get the ball inside.
Jonsey, your thoughts on the performance we got from Fred VanVleet? Still waiting to find out exactly what's bothering him, but it didn't look like anything was bothering him last night.
No, Akil.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I meant Sherm. My bad.
Yeah.
The cold.
I figure you did. But that's what happens when you go into the office. You're way too dedicated. You got to stay home, my man. You got to take care of safety first. But, I really don't worry about a guy like Fred. I mean, he's one of those players that you look at and you're confident that he'll figure it out. He's a smart player. He approaches the game from an intellectual level. He does a great job in terms of navigating situations. Even, when you look at that game on Wednesday, he did a great job understanding, okay, the shot's not there. It's not falling. So he started the game, lots of pressure on the paint of the Sacramento Kings, attacking, breaking them down off the dribble, not settling. And to me, it helped set the tone for his team in terms of the mentality and the approach throughout the rest of the game. And that's an adjustment. We've heard many times, and we heard the conversation about it. The Raptors are shooting too many threes. They're just settling on the perimeter. And I think that this is an issue that he rectified quickly by not settling for threes, by attacking. So, I don't worry about Fred from that perspective. If there's health issues, that's a concern to me. But from an understanding of how to navigate and how to deal with the background noise and all the questions about Fred and is he that player anymore, I've never been concerned about that. Fred knows who he is. He's going to play a brand of basketball that's going to be smart and effective. And when the shot's not falling, he's going to make the adjustment. So I've always been confident in Fred VanVleet's ability to be a consistent, positive influence on the floor.
Definitely saw a lot more dribble drives from Fred last night, even though the numbers don't dictate. He can definitely get in the paint with the best of them. Now, let's talk about another guy who's actually been, questioned a lot in the media, and that's Scottie Barnes, who had himself a game, messed around, damn near got himself a triple-double, just 3 rebounds shy of one of those. And he's probably, I'll go ahead and say, one of the more versatile Raptors. And is that something that kind of he's established? Because people talk about the fact that the numbers haven't jumped up as much, whether it be points or rebounds or assists for him this season. Sherm, I'll start with you. But at least he's established that he's a guy that you can call on across the board to do a lot of different things for the Toronto Raptors team when other people aren't picking up the slack.
Yeah, he's a multi-talented guy, and he has very, very many ways that he can impact the game. And I really thought for Scottie, his aggression wasn't there the last few games. His determination to be an impact player consistently wasn't there. And I think for a young player, it's the second year, a lot of teams are now moving you up the scouting report, so you're not going to catch people off guard. There's an adjustment that has to be made, not only on the court, but from an approach perspective mentally. And I think I think Scottie struggled over the last few games. And again, his could be health related as well, because we know he was banged up for a bit. But I thought that his desire to attack all the time, not just to score, but to make plays, it just wasn't there. And I thought he got back to that against the Sacramento Kings. And again, he scored, but he also moved the ball well. He rebounded. He was impactful on so many levels. And he's young, so he's still navigating this. He's still figuring it out. And for a guy like Scottie, you want to understand for his sake that he gets it. There's going to be times like that, but it's how you respond to the adversity. And I think he showed against the Sacramento Kings that when he puts it together, he's still that guy who can impact this team in a very positive way. So it was good to see him come out of that little funk he had. And it was good to see him be aggressive again and look to make plays. And he had that bounce in his step. And we know when Scottie's playing with that bounce, he's a different player for this team.
Jonsey, your thoughts on Scottie?
He's, as Sherm said, he's a 5-tool player. Pass, dribble, drive, shoot, and defend every position at the other end. And for him, it's a matter of knowing which tool to pull out at the right time. And I thought we saw that in the game against Sacramento. Did a terrific job. Sherm talked about with his playmaking. Scored a lot in the paint. Did a terrific job of taking advantage of his size, mismatches, walking people down, driving it inside. And then late in the game, we saw him hit a couple of huge threes. He hit one from the far wing on the side that the Sacramento bench was, and then he hit a corner three right in front of their bench. So, he's going through something that is new for him. He hasn't seen this before in the NBA. He saw good times last year, and his first quote bad time unquote was his first look at it. Now he's getting another look at it, and it's in a new way with expectations built in. So I think he's responding well to it. And look, if Scottie and Fred keep having games the way they had against Sacramento, this team's going to come out of whatever funk or losing streak that a lot of people perceive that they would be in.
All right, time to check in with the fourth member of our broadcast team, and that is Savanna Hamilton, who has an update for us on Juancho Hernangomez.
Thanks, Akil. Juancho Hernangomez. Now, he made his return to the court tonight after suffering a right ankle sprain to Orlando when they were playing back here in Scotiabank Arena. So he missed over a week of action. So he was excited to take the court tonight and play against one of his longtime friends in Sabonis. But unfortunately, he had a little rust to shake off. He had 5 points, 5 rebounds in about 24 minutes of action. He was 0 for 3 from 3, but he did bring a lot of energy. And it's also kind of good to note that he also didn't take any more threes in the second half, so maybe that also contributed to it a little bit. But Akil, he's ready for the next game. As he was telling me, he just wants to shake this one off and keep going. Akil?
Thank you, Savanna. So let's just talk about the threes. We heard Fred talk about it last night. It's hard to win in this league when you're not making a lot of threes, specifically on defense. Now let's talk about the Raptors. And what can be done, because we're here to scheme, we're here to play I guess the second guessers of the coaching staff and throw out some new ideas here. But how can the Raptors make it harder for their opponent, or kind of challenge the new style of game that they're playing against this NBA when they themselves aren't making threes? What can be done? I'll start with Jonsey.
When we were talking on Raptors tonight following the game, I thought Sherm made a good point about the offensive rebounding. The Sacramento Kings look very much like the Toronto Raptors. Fast breaking, play with, up tempo, play with pace, shoot the ball from the outside. And one of the things that Nick Nurse said was the offensive rebounding really hurt the Raptors, because that's the best time to get a three. You come off the offensive rebound, it's hard to match up, it's hard to find people, and people get open threes. And the other part of it is keeping people out of the paint. You get into the paint, people have to rotate. The ball gets kicked out. So, probably better individual defense. When you're forced into rotation, it's tough to try and catch up to the ball all the time. But on the other end, if you're Toronto and the Raptors, they're getting good shots. They're just not going down. They have had a tough time. I think since the middle of November, they're one of the poorer teams in terms of three-point shooting. But they've got to keep taking them. They've got to keep, chipping away at the dam, and hopefully it'll open it up and the floodgates will open. this is a good 3-point shooting team. They're not showing that right now, but that's what they lived on in last year's situation. That's what they did well early this year. It's just eluded them and escaped them right now. Guys have to stay in the gym. They have to keep taking those shots, and they have to keep playing in a way that those shots are going to be produced for them.
Sherm, this Raptors team is known for an aggressive style of defense. They say they want to attack on defense. They don't want to just take shots away, but they want to really create offense out of that defense. How does that kind of impact the way they've played this year, and how does that kind of move forward?
Well, it just continues to accentuate the fact that you don't have your best defensive player in OG Anunoby on the floor. And he does so many things to alleviate some of those breakdowns defensively. He's not the answer to everything, but he severely has impact on them being a better defensive team. You know, the other thing, too, is sometimes the perfect storm occurs. You're playing against a team in Sacramento that's top 10 in both three-point makes and three-point takes. They're sixth in both categories. They shot 46 threes. So when you're talking about that, this is a team that's going to pretty much outshoot many teams from the three-point line just based on sheer volume. And they did that with 17 made threes. They outscored the Raptors by 33 points on the three-point line. And to Nick Nurse's point, the fact that the Raptors were giving up offensive rebounds, as Jonsey just illustrated, it's clear that the best three-point shot to get is the one that's kicked out off of a missed shot, a rebound. The defense is scrambling. You get a wide open look. So the Raptors hurt themselves. And when you pride yourself defensively, what we saw from the Raptors earlier in the season was they would get the stop, but they would get the defensive rebound to complete the stop. We didn't see that against Sacramento enough, and that created a lot of problems. So I just think that as good as they can be defensively, and we saw it against Orlando the second game, they made it an ugly, defensive, nightmarish field goal percentage type of game. They weren't able to do that against Sacramento, and Sacramento did a good job of hurting them in terms of the three-point line, and they've got to get back to understanding until those threes drop, they've got to be more sound on the defensive end, especially completing the defensive possession with the defensive rebound.
Now, the Raptors are technically in a slump, but let's talk about it because, Sherm, you touched on it. The Sacramento Kings team is not, your big brother Sacramento Kings team. It's definitely different under Mike Brown. Definitely not the output you wanted against that Orlando Magic team. But how does Nick Nurse now kind of keep things positive? Because he did get a bump in effort and shot making against this Kings team. How does he judge wins without actually getting wins on the floor, Jonsey?
I think it's, some of the things that we talked about, Akil, the foundational principles. I mean, you are still trying to use the regular season and build towards the ultimate goal of performing at your best in the playoffs. So some of the things that we see that they've talked about, they need to keep doing, and they need to improve on those and continue to work at those. On the offensive end, driving the ball, swinging the ball, having cutters, taking good shots, having good balance when a shot is taken, not turning down shots so everybody knows when to go to the boards, when to retreat in transition. Defensively, keeping the ball in front of you, knowing where the help is coming from, rotating, multiple efforts. Those are foundational things. And Nick has talked about those. And regardless of the score, and you hear coaches say it all the time, not in this case with Toronto, but you hear it a lot where a coach will say, I know we've lost, but we're getting better. I can see improvement. And people who just look at the bottom line and the score are going to say, what are you talking about, coach? But if you're getting those foundational things done and continuing to galvanize them and consolidate them, you are going to take a jump at some point. For me, with the Raptors, it comes down to the rebounding and making some shots, and I think this thing turns around very quickly.
Sherm, are there wins to be had in an effort like that against the Kings?
Well, we all know there's no moral victories in terms of when you lose, but understanding that, I believe Nick Nurse is a realist, and it's not all bad when you lose, and it's not all good when you win. And to understand how to navigate that and separate the good in the losses is something that Nick Nurse has been very good at. And I feel like, in situations like this, there's always things to learn about your team. and continue to grow. So those are the focal points, understanding you did do some good things in that game against Sacramento, and you've got to build on it. But don't shy away from pointing out what needs to be corrected. And I think that's the balance that Nick Nurse has brought to this team in these kind of situations. And sometimes, in the media, we can look at it, the noise gets really loud on the outside in terms of what's not happening for this team, and it can get very distracting. And I think being able to insulate your team and get them to focusing on the right things is where Nick Nurse really shows his strength. So, it's not one of those things to me from a coaching perspective that you're in the locker room with your coaches and you're trying to figure out, what went wrong? How do we not do these things? You understand there's a balanced approach. There are other factors that are mitigating the situation that you navigate, and you continue to build from there. But far from panic, far from, running the flag up the pole and saying it's over. It's about just figuring out game to game how to get better and how to correct some of the things that aren't working well.
Well, Nick Nurse is working on that right now, and he spoke post-game. So let's check in with Nick Nurse, followed by Fred VanVleet. Post-game sound.
Like the other night in Orlando, you looked down the box score and saw a lot of their guys that made threes, and again, a lot of their guys tonight made threes on you. What are you seeing in those looks that the opponents are getting as opposed to the ones you're getting?
Well, we didn't do a very good job for, a lot of the second quarter on from keeping the ball in front of us, right? So there was a lot of paint touches by them, and then kickouts. There's a lot of transition happening as well, where they were, throwing ahead and getting some quick looks early, but just probably not guarding the ball was probably the chain reaction that was starting most of that. Yeah.
And the last shot for Fred, your three-point shooting has been. The numbers are undeniable, but that was a pretty good look for him and the kind of play you want to get, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was the the design. It was as you know, it's tough. We kind of changed the formation a little bit, but I think we're going to take that with needing a three and not very much time to get one. Just didn't go in.
Is that the guy you want taking that shot because of just his track record throughout his career?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at that point of the game, what is he, 2 for 7, right? He's got a 39-point game going, et cetera. I think he's probably the hottest guy out there. So creating that look for him, good job by our guys to do that and live with the result.
You got out offensive rebounded tonight, which is a rarity for you guys. What did they do to keep you off the glass?
Yeah, we didn't rebound either end very good tonight, which was, one of the other keys to the game. I think, I don't know how many there were where they had the offensive rebound and spun around and kicked it out to a wide open faced up three. It's hard to get rematched up on an offensive rebound. We do it a lot, right? And so that was a really big, we were having a really hard time with that. And I thought the times where we did play good defense and make them miss, we were giving them too many second chance opportunities. And then a lot of those were threes as well. It just seemed like there were probably 6 of those tonight maybe, in the course of the game where they got an offensive rebound, kicked it back out and hit a three. And you can stop that. You can stop that 3-point shot if you can rebound it, right?
But I mean, you guys had some outstanding performances, so certainly right up there. And how frustrating is it to leave all that on the floor and not get the W?
I mean, it's just frustrating to lose in general. Individual performances don't really matter, especially when you don't get the win. So, frustrating for sure. But it'll be a good film day to see, why we're giving up the shots that we're giving up. 17 threes, most of them felt wide open in rhythm, so we got to fix that. It's hard to win that way when you're giving up that many threes and you're not generating or making them on the other end.
You mentioned film, so I take that, but you mentioned on the road trip that we just have to guard one-on-one better. Is that basically what it comes down to? Nick sort of was saying that you guys weren't guarding the point of attack well enough tonight. Does that seem to you like it's the root of the problem?
Yeah, that's usually a good indication of your defense sucking, is not guarding the ball. So again, we'll see why and when and where, and you got to look at it. I thought that we guarded well in stretches, and then there was other stretches where we couldn't get control. And there's flows and there's momentums to the game, and again, I have to look and see how we can get better at that. But there were some positives, obviously, tonight, but doesn't really matter when you don't get the win.
There are some defensive schemes that are a little bit more preemptive in switching to if you guys can't get stops at the point of attack. Are you more comfortable in those types of schemes like nexting or peel switching, or just trying to stick your man and have the help come late?
I mean, we do a lot of things. We have a lot of options, and we try to switch it up and take the rhythm and just try to take away people's strengths. I think that's overall what our objective is to be disruptive and take away the strengths. But we definitely got to find a way to be better. Again, there's probably ways to do that, but at this point, I think it's just, man for man, just, looking in the mirror and see how you can be better individually, and I think that will help our team a lot. But I'm sure the coaches are, up all night trying to figure this thing out. We got a great staff, and I'm sure that we'll get a hold of it.
All right, one of the more interesting moments from last night's game, of course, was the moment when Mike Brown had enough of that night's refereeing crew and got himself ejected from the game. Jonsey, you were courtside. Tell us what you saw. What happened there?
Well, it was a quick hook by the officials. Let's put it that way. It started with a play where there was no foul. The replay confirmed that there was no foul. And one of the Sacramento players said something to the official walking away. And I spoke to Mike Brown after the game about it. No magic words used, Akil. None at all. It was kind of a flippant comment. And it was low-key as the player was walking away, and the result in the technical really upset Mike Brown because he felt that not only was the call missed, now you're punishing my player for saying something about it and and making a comment about it. And it was a lighthearted comment, meant to be lighthearted, and Mike took exception to that. And I know Mike Brown, and in all my years watching him as a coach and knowing him as a person, I've never seen him that upset. So I talked to him about it after the game, and he was really upset. He felt that there was one error, and instead of admit and fix, it was compounded with a technical, and to him, that was the last straw.
Sherm, were you impressed by the reaction of Mike Brown? As Jones said, not a traditional reaction from a rather mild-mannered coach.
Yeah, you know how it is when you see people and for some reason they act outside of their character. You wonder something's not right here because it's not a trait that person displays consistently. And then I'm glad Jonsey had the information on the backside in terms of what happened because it makes sense. And it just illuminates a problem that the NBA is going to have to rectify. A call is made, a player reacts, the call is challenged, it's proven to be an incorrect call. You should rescind everything that's associated with that decision because the player doesn't react that way if that call isn't made.
Yeah.
So where is the correction of the situation? Because if they find the play is wrong, then the player shouldn't have had Mike Brown shouldn't have been ejected. The player shouldn't have got a technical because all that aftermath doesn't occur. And that's something the NBA is going to have to look at. Having said that, Mike Brown, obviously is defending his team. And it's a very, very good move by a first-year coach for the Sacramento Kings to show solidarity and continue to build that interior support for the players that they haven't had, that stability that hasn't been there for the Sacramento Kings. Mike Brown is bringing all that, and he's backing it up, and he tried to defend his player. I have a lot of respect for Mike Brown. He's a good coach. He knows what he's doing, and he's got this team playing at a very high level.
Well-timed, and he took the pressure off and the attention off of De'Aaron Fox. Now, last night was a double game night for the organization. Not only were the Raptors in action, but the Raptors 905 were at Paramount Fine Food Center, and we handed off to the 905 broadcast team of Warren Ward and Matt Cullen.
All right, thanks very much, Akil. The Raptors 905 win their third in their last 4 games. A total team effort tonight. They do it on defense, Warren, but they also do it with one of their leaders, Justin Champagnie, 34 points. He was big.
He was huge. He 34 points in 37 minutes, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. He did it in a very old-school conservative way. He started the game going inside and then out, as most scorers want to do. You see him here, shoulder down, getting all the way to the rim, and then you start to see him step out and shoot jump shots. And I think that set the tone for the rest of the team. I think everyone followed suit. But those key blocks, key steals, key deflections were the intangible parts of why I think this 905 team won this game with only 8 players. And definitely defensively, it also helped as well. He set the tone on that end of the floor as well. So hats off to this team. Real gutsy win tonight.
A shorthanded win for the Raptors 905. By the way, 34 points. That's a season high for Justin Champagnie. And the 905 now improved to 7-8 on the year. One thing they have in common over the last 4 wins is defense.
That's right. That's right. And they've done it with 20 points less per game on average scored against them. So defense has been the key part of why I think they've turned things around, and I think Coach Corey's system is starting to take effect. Hopefully, that can carry on Friday night and over on into Vegas. So we'll see how that goes, but much to look forward to. I think the 905 have a ton of potential. They're starting to blossom, starting to pick things up. It may be late, but never late is better, right? So hopefully things start to pick up again.
And speaking of picking it up again, we are back on Friday night. Big test for Justin Champagnie and the Raptors 905. They take on the 10-4 College Park Skyhawks, the G League affiliate of Atlanta. Should be a good one. Akil, back to you.
So the 905 back in action on Friday night, but so are the Toronto Raptors, and they've got their hands full. A 17-12 Brooklyn Nets team. Look out now. This is a team that people were worried about not too long ago, rounding into shape, and it's a rested Brooklyn Nets team. The Raptors only coming off 1-day rest today, whereas the Nets haven't played since the 12th, so that'll be 3 full days of rest. But let's take a look at how the Nets have kind of found their form, and of course it starts with Kevin Durant. So Sherm, let's get you to break down some of the hot spots that Kevin Durant's been getting to with his Brooklyn Nets team.
The hot spots are all over the floor, Akil, just in case anybody doesn't know. But he's so good. Look here, he catches the ball, he drives the closeout, and you talk about getting to a hot spot. That little pull-up about 15 feet just close to the baseline is money for Kevin Durant. And here you see in transition as the Nets bring it down, you see the attack. The attack, he gets to the side of the screen, and his shot-making ability and the variety of shots he can make with his size is just unstoppable. And here he gets it off of just great ball movement. The defense is reacting. They're overloaded. They've double-teamed the ball. And Brooklyn has gotten better at moving the basketball. They get it out the double team, and look at the passes. Bang, bang, far side, the defense, the farthest distance they have to close out and get back into the play. Kevin Durant at 7 feet is going to knock down that shot over smaller defenders. How about this? The last few games, look at his point total, but look at the field goal percentage. Over 61%, shooting almost 40% from the three-point line. He's a monster. He's always been a monster offensively, and this is a concern. Brooklyn can be very good when Kevin Durant is playing at this level.
Yeah, much props to Kevin Durant, but another guy you got to shout out, of course, is Jacques Vaughn. Kevin Durant praised how he approached the defensive side of the ball, Jonsey, but we also got to talk about the offensive side of the ball and the ball movement that Jacques Vaughn's brought to this team, and especially over the last 4 games because they've won 4 straight.
Well, Jacques Vaughn's a San Antonio Spurs guy. He's from the Popovich tree, and we always talk about side to side. That first thing starts with the ball going to the other side of the court. Now there's a drive, and guess what? It comes back to the side where it started, and there's that man, Kevin Durant, on the business end. Same thing here. Ball starts going side to side, goes into the corner, drive into the paint. Defender has his back turned but has a decision to make. Royce O'Neal passes up a good shot for a great shot where Kevin Durant is standing locked and loaded. And here, the spacing leads to a 2-man game. Kyrie Irving doing a nice job, the dribble handoff, and then I don't know if they don't have cable, you can't go under a screen on Kyrie Irving, and he's going to knock down the shot. So give the Nets credit. As I said, Jacques Vaughn is from the San Antonio Spurs tree with Greg Popovich. Play the right way is the mantra that they always use, and the Nets are doing that right now.
All right, hopefully the Nets don't do that Friday night at the Vault as the Toronto Raptors take on the Brooklyn Nets, 7:30 tip-off. That game can be found on the TSN family of networks, TSN 1050 for the radio call, and check out TSN for the video. That does it for us on Raptors today. Thank you for watching. Sherm and Jonsey are saying bye from their cozy houses. I got to go outside and trek through this icy snow, but we'll see you guys.
If you want to come and help me shovel, brother, it's all good.
No, I'm in a condo. I got someone to do that for me. I'm good.
All right, okay. Yeah.
That does it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Do remember, double game night, 9:05, and the Raptors Friday night. We'll see you next time.